We looked at injuries at almost every sporting league. You requested UFC. Let's get started. Pee-whoop.
Now this is the shot that gave her the swelling. And right after that right hand
above
by
the eyebrow.
champion, her forehead immediately started swelling up.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, big shot by the champion.
That's a hematoma. And while that looks terrible, it's not as dangerous had that hematoma formed inside her skull. Because remember, inside the skull, there's no place for it to go. So pressure builds up, and then that pressure is dangerous for the neurologic tissues, the brain itself. If there's no fracture and it's just superficial bleeding, it looks worse than it is in many instances. Oh, this is the same person? Wow. Pretty incredible.
More busy with the left.
Oh, ooh, good right hand by Barboza. Oh, my goodness.
Stop the fight!
Look at, he hits him.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. Most commonly, when you see a strike, it right away incapacitates a fighter. But in this situation, there was a delayed response, which could be that the muscles were still, they're firing, and then only after the brain recognized what's going on, it completely shut down and went into a prone position.
Luke en ese tercer asalto, como tú lo comentabas.
Que uno dice, ah, está fuera.
That looked like it was to the frontal bone, the top portion of the skull there.
Mira, directo a la nariz.
Oh, right on the
Jueces,
nose.
primero vamos a darle un aplauso para una tremenda
Oh my God, look at the
pelea.
nose. It's like completely sideways. No, don't fix it. Just wait for the doctor. I mean, the nasal bones are so tricky. There's a lot of cartilage there, and one of the most worrisome things is that you can get a nasal septal hematoma there, and that type of bleeding into that section is dangerous and problematic and requires urgent attention. The blow was so bad that Perry started having trouble breathing and ended up being hospitalized. Perry underwent successful nose surgery in Uruguay.
Mike, it's good to see you and your new nose. It's looking great.
Look, can you do this, Eric?
My dear.
Can you do that?
Here we go.
Ooh, heavy low kick.
He kicked me right here. There's a nerve, a perennial nerve that will shut your foot off. His toe, his big ass Ecuadorian toe, hit my perennial nerve right here. It shut my foot off. My foot was completely numb. Went to step back on my foot, but my foot didn't work. I fell down.
So you roll your ankle. The peroneal nerve, or the common fibular nerve, is a branch off the sciatic nerve. Most people have heard of sciatica. If you get hit there, it actually can paralyze the nerve. Paralyzing that nerve, at least temporarily, what can happen is you develop foot drop, where you don't have the muscle called the tibialis anterior on the foot to actually raise up your foot, so the foot drops. And then there's also some weakness in the muscle on the outside of the foot, so your foot basically falls inward. And obviously you can't step on a foot that's flailing. You lose your base, all other issues occur.
Oh! Huge elbow from Shield!
Big shot. That's the leg. And again, look, he's left it back.
Consider taking this fight to and Jose Aldo just to go here. Discipline. And again, scramble. Very freely kicks it up on him.
Without a good base, it's near impossible to have a good fight. Oh my God.
Left hook to the midsection, down goes Fabe.
Yeah, he had to get carried back to his corner. I mean, they didn't want him using that leg any more than he has to.
Wow.
Day after the big fight, dude.
Leg kicks are deceiving, man. It feels like I was getting hit with a bat. That's the first time I've really been punished with those. You can kind of see here. My leg matches
so
my
much
shorts
swelling.
here.
Oh my God, look at that. Jesus, look at that.
That's a serious hematoma there. Remember, when you hit muscle bleeds. That's what bruises come from. And if you hit the muscle enough, you could actually have electrolyte disturbances and neurologic disturbances where the muscle starts firing, not firing, shutting down, being slow to react, cramping. So that's what's happening every time you're getting kicked.
They kind of have to wait for like the swelling to go down and stuff before they MRI or anything, right?
Well, first we get x-rays to make sure bones aren't broken. And what's interesting about x-rays is they're not incredibly sensitive. They don't catch all stress fractures, for example, or really small fractures. So in that instance, we do get MRIs. You would prefer swelling to go down. Now, on the other hand, if you wait 2 weeks and the swelling goes down and the patient's fine clinically, there's no issue, getting an MRI might be overkill.
Belfort very fluid and relaxed here in the early going.
Oh.
There it is again, that left high kick.
Oh.
And Bisping is opened up and in all sorts of trouble. That'll do it.
When was your vision first compromised? Was it after the? It was after the Vitor fight, right?
It was the Vitor fight that did it, and I slowly started getting our symptoms. I was doing this a lot in restaurants. You know, restaurants are dark, some of them. I was doing this, you know.
He wants to see if he has peripheral vision.
My friends would be like, oh, he's doing that thing again with his hands. I'm like, can you see your hand there if you do that? By the end, it was like right in front of me there, and I couldn't see. I called the doctor, and he said, yeah, you got a detached retina.
Interesting, because the detached retina happens quite suddenly, and there's 3 different signs that we look for, or symptoms that we look for in patients. One is like the quick loss of vision. Some people describe it as a curtain going over the eye. New floaters in the eye, like happening very quickly, and then also flashing lights. This is a surgical emergency that we are taught to refer and get them treatment within 24 hours.
It's just a bump in the road, hopefully.
The surgery lasted over an hour. They injected oil in my eye, they used a laser, they put a silicone sponge around the outside, and eventually reattached my retina. It redetached, I got glaucoma. It was just bad luck, one thing after the other. Anything that could go wrong with an eye went.
The thing was with the eye, when you start performing surgeries on the eye and then still continuing combat sports, it creates all sorts of different risk factors. That's why when I was talking to some of my ophthalmology colleagues about getting LASIK before my boxing match, they were telling me the different options, some of which carried a higher risk given the fact that I was going to experience head trauma as a fighter.
How did you pass this test?
With great difficulty. Lying, cheating, bullshit codes. I lied to so many doctors.
It's pretty sad to hear that he had to do that because it put his life in jeopardy.
And I'll show you right now. So as we see, there is the prosthetic lens. So I definitely can't live without this thing.
That's really cool. I have no idea about prosthetic lenses. That's above my pay grade.
There's no point of comparison for Ferguson. I don't know who you'd compare.
Oh, that elbow. I felt the elbow. The Lecranon.
Like Cerrone maybe blew his nose, and that right eye now is almost completely closed.
Oh, no.
You can't blow your nose. Doctor said you can't fight.
I think I watched this fight.
You can't fight.
Doctor's telling him he can't fight.
The doctor's protecting him. And
Yeah, I mean, his eye is absolutely terrible. There's probably a fracture in there somewhere that's causing air pockets to go into his eye, making it completely swollen shut. And that's dangerous, not just for the eye itself, but also for the fighter, because they're not going to be able to see a punch come from that direction.
you blew your nose, which is something you're never supposed to do, and your eye swole up.
I also used to see, I think this was in a Rocky movie, where they would cut the eye that is really swollen and allow it to bleed.
I can't see nothing, gotta open my eye. Come here, Mick.
We don't do this. This is highly illegal and dangerous for so many reasons. A lot of vital structures there that if you damage, that could be permanent.
Tomorrow, I gotta go to you, man. What does Jorgen De Castro need to do right now, man, to get back in this fight?
Oh, his shoulder's out.
Wow. Talk about sportsmanship.
But the ref has to see it.
Oh my God, he's trying to put it in himself. That's bone on bone grinding there. Remember, bones have articular cartilage, so it's cartilage that rubs over the head of the bone that allows it to move smoothly within that joint. Then there's the labrum that keeps it in place. And if you have issues with your labrum or ligamentous laxity or weak tendons in that area, you can be more prone to developing a dislocation.
If they put it back in the socket, could you restart?
Of course. Medically, yeah. If they were able to reduce his shoulder really quickly, again, I don't know the rules here, but he might be completely fine. There's instances where someone has a very loose shoulder, so much so to the point where it comes out frequently, they're able to pop it back in themselves and continue fighting or doing whatever it is, so. Oh, that's when his leg gave out. Oh. It's not a dislocation, that's a displaced fracture. Oh, stop showing it.
You can't watch it. None of us stand a chance.
No, I can't watch it. I mean, I'm still a human.
I was injured going into the fight. People are asking me, when was the leg broke? At what point did the leg break? Ask Dana White, ask the UFC, ask Dr. Davidson, the head doctor of the UFC. They knew I had stress fractures in my leg going into that cage.
Stress fractures certainly put you at risk for a complete fracture. This is why I frequently have patients who are drastically increasing their mileage training for a marathon or something, and I see a stress fracture, they have pain in their bone. I diagnose them and I tell them, don't run the marathon because you could snap your leg. And they say, no, I'm good. And then things like this happen, and that's the risk. That's the risk of continuing to train under stress fracture. There's actually some unique tools that exist through sound. They can speed up healing. It's pretty interesting. I've seen some preliminary research on them being beneficial. I haven't checked in on the research over the last few years, but they look like this, and they're pretty cool in that they could potentially speed up healing of fractures, which is great for professional athletes.
So now I've got a titanium rod going down the knee, from the knee to my ankle, and the doctor said it's unbreakable.
I wonder if he didn't have his accent, would we find this message equally as charming? If you didn't know, I fought Nate Diaz's boy Chris Avila. Click here to check it out. Really interesting synopsis. As always, stay happy and healthy.